Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders show.
Hey, GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey, kids. Welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% unbiased, completely impartial, and, as predicted, rather despondent co-host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Joining me this week, back for the regular lineup, we start with MJ.
How's it going? I have decided I am now also going to announce all the major deadlines in my personal life as with the Grey Cup deadline, like the federal government.
And there's the other one, GT, as well.
Hey, everyone, how you doing? It was a super Saturday. Any week that both green teams lose is a good week for me. So there you go.
Yeah, I had different opinions, of course, but we'll get to that. Unfortunately, we're starting off this week with another in memoriam. It's unfortunate, but the Winnipeg Hamilton game this last week was done in honor of Ted Goveia, the Hamilton Tiger Cats GM, who's been fighting esophageal, and unfortunately, he passed away the morning before the game was played. I don't know what else we can say. Our thoughts, our condolences go out to Ted's family, to his loved ones, to all the people across the CFL that cared about him. My father passed from esophageal cancer, and I know what a bear that is. So hopefully I know he was fighting hard the whole way through. Hopefully he didn't suffer too much, and he will definitely be missed. I don't know as much about him, but listening to all the tributes, how much he was involved in football, right from the lowest levels up through the junior game here, university, and then, of course, the CFL. So that's it. Anything either of you wants to add? Or
Yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah, no, it's very sad, of course, whenever we lose a personality and a key member of the CFL family, because we're all family when it comes to that. No matter how much we banter about each other's teams, and one thing about this league is it is one big family league, and we all take pride in it, and we all feel the pain. So, yeah, our condolences go out. And on a night that was already pre-planned to be a tribute to him anyways, it turned into even more so of one, and it was felt throughout the stadium, right through the television, and I think that's real important. On a pure business side, I mean, he was such a builder in so many ways, from the Argos through to Winnipeg, through to Hamilton, and just already have turned that Hamilton team around this year from the last couple of years. And the footprints there, or the fingerprints are there all over it. And we'll see where they go, because they're going to have to look for another GM. And that's the bad side and the business side of this unfortunate circumstance. And it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Yeah, I think Ted was going to be one of those guys where the sky was the limit, and as far as what he could take teams to, and so it's a big loss for the Tie Cats, and it's a big loss just for CFL. Like, sucks. It sucks. So
yeah. It's a term that gets overused, but everything I see and hear, he was definitely one of the good ones. He was a quality human being. So, all right, well, let's move on to some, well, definitely less serious and, if not necessarily less happy stuff for me, is my fantasy update. Again, I got schooled a bit this week. I didn't hate my score. I was 106.8, but Trey Colbeck from the Canadian Football Countdown was my opponent. He had the high score in the league at 147 and change, so I lost by 40 points. And the good part is I think I know where I've gone wrong, and anybody that tunes into the Friday show, Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy, I'll talk about it there and what the learnings are, what we can take away from that. That was about it for there. Did you bother with the team, GT?
I had something going on Friday, family-wise, and completely slipped my mind. And then by Saturday, it was like, so it was too late to really play, so I just passed entirely. But I would have had a tremendous.
Alrighty.
I would have had a tremendous.
you would have picked Phil Pot.
Oh, of course, in the 200s. All right. The other thing, while we had MJ2 here with us last week, we didn't get a chance to talk about something that the original MJ1 has done. She's got the CFL Outsiders up on Instagram. So tell us all about that, MJ. Where do people find us? What does it all mean?
Yeah, so I'm not going to claim to be a professional Instagrammer by any means, but we have an Instagram account, and you can find us at CFL Outsiders, and we have right now 47 followers after a week.
Nice.
Our first, not bad. Our first follower was Emmanuel Arsenault.
Wow.
So exciting.
The Manny Show.
Yeah.
We better work hard at getting that right for him.
Yeah, and then some other people of note that have started to follow us. Mac Mahone.
Wow.
Is following us. Kevin Brown.
Good.
Yeah, Calvin McCarty, Almondo Sewell. So, guys, and the Tune Out podcast. So,
I like it.
We're on our way.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
Sounds like we have some guys we might need to interview. That'll be the next step for us.
So I'm just going to post.
That sounds scary as hell to me. And if one of you two wants to do interviews, we'll get into it. That would not be my strong suit.
So we're just posting like clips to of the show. We're posting links to the YouTube shows. My sister is a Canva genius, and she has made a Canva outline for us for our weekly picks. So
good.
They're in print, so there's no hiding them now. They are up, and everyone can see them.
I like it.
Our top video so far, GT's MLSC rant, is up to it's approaching 2,300 views.
Wow.
Our other videos are only in the hundreds. So GT, you are the star of the show.
Yes. A lot of people like what you had to say and agree with you.
I think so. I think what you said really struck a chord with a lot of people, and so it was very timely. And if you haven't checked it out, check out GT's whole segment. It was great.
Good. Yep, definitely. Yeah, from last week there was good stuff there. Okay, and if you don't have a chance to catch us right off the bat when we drop here on the Wednesdays, the clips will be up on Instagram. You'll be able to take a short preview there and then join us when you have more time. So good stuff. Thank you, MJ. That is great.
Excellent.
Yeah. And just that the link to the show is in our bio on Instagram. So it's right to the YouTube channel. So it's easy to find us.
All right. Well, I tried to set up an Instagram account because, like you, old man, I am a neophyte there, and it just kept saying I needed to sign up all these people before I could even get an account, and I was like, I don't know any of these people. I'm not doing that, so I've not gone further yet. So I will figure it out, but I have not yet figured it out.
Moving along with a little bit, just again, CFL news, real quick stuff. The Tyler Sneed's getting love in Montreal. They've re-signed him apparently for another 2 years. So not surprising the way he's playing. He'll be there. And then, MJ, you were also mentioning something about the Chad with his video, I'm playing, oh, no, I'm not playing, oh, something like that.
I know I said I wasn't going to talk about him. As we all know, Nick Arbuckle's out 2 to 4 weeks. So I was thinking, is Chad going to play? So the CFL Outsiders follows Chad Kelly on Instagram, so I've hopped over. He has deleted his comeback video from his Instagram.
And he has issued an apology, I understand.
Did he issue an apology?
I understand he issued an apology saying that he jumped the gun and that he's fully supportive of the staff and not quite ready yet.
Yeah, he said that he posted that kind of update saying that he was only 90% and he wants to make sure he's 100%. And on that post, he turned off his comments. But don't you worry, GT, because he announced in that post that he is making a YouTube series called The Comeback about his rehab journey. But I checked YouTube and it's not up there yet, so stay tuned.
I could speculate about how the YouTube series was made with Chad and his phone and late at night and possibly alcohol involved, but I don't want to get into any libel things.
I was going to say, well, we'll wait and see what kind of a puff piece it is, or whether it's an actual hard-hitting documentary, or whether, as you said, it's him and his phone ranting away. It will be very interesting to see how it is and who's produced it and so on. Because the first one, apparently, I didn't really watch the comeback, but MJ, I think you reported that it was pretty fancy looking. So maybe this does have a bit of production value behind it. And he does drive a lot of views, so it's not necessarily a bad thing for the league or the Argos in general. Heck, it's no worse than having a Buffalo Bills connection, is it?
Yeah, that is true. And I'm thinking part of it is that with Jared Dagey in there, he's not feeling pressure about losing his job now, so it's probably okay. Because I did see today that it was a source, it wasn't the Argos, but an article saying that Dagey's getting the start this weekend, or projected to.
Well, Ryan was interviewed today, and he said at the practice, and he said that Chad might not be back at all this season.
Which a lot of us have been saying for a while now, so that makes sense to me, yeah. The other update is I saw something, just a post, not anything official, but somebody saying that Zach was back at practice in Winnipeg, but he was listed as limited on the injury report, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah, the story I read was that he was at, and I saw it from several different people, that he was at practice, but he actually, and in full uniform, but didn't actually take part in practice. So they're still not sure what the update's going to be for this week.
I'm really beginning to question Winnipeg, and maybe I shouldn't, because they've been a good team, and they've had a real good focus on what matters, on the football, but also the family aspect of it, how they all work together and everything. And this year, they seem like they're in desperation mode. The questionable call about bringing Memoriam Houston back, and then this bit about Zach with all of his injuries and hard to guess what's there. And then this week, I heard a report that Dalton Schoen in that Banjo Bowl where he tore his ACL, that he had actually torn it a couple of weeks before, and they hadn't got the imaging back and let him go out and play anyway. That does not seem like a team that seems like a team that's desperate rather than one that's focusing on what really matters, my opinion.
Can't really say that you're worried about the players as people when you are just rushing people back and making them play. I don't know. I don't like
It seems like they're a team right now that knows where they stand, knows where they're falling to and where they've fallen from, and are desperate to try to do anything to maintain their grasp. But it's slipping away from them, and sooner or later they're going to have to recognize that. Yeah, been there, in 2018, 2019 for the Stampeders. Understand how frustrating that is when you see it going away, but you either make some moves early or you put up with 4 to 5 years before you finally come around again. So that's what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of Ted, I mean, how big of a loss was he for the Bombers? And maybe that's a big piece of why they cannot figure this out. But we've all been there. Every team has these issues. It's not...
Hey, Flyer fan here. I have frequent Flyer points to there. I've been there more than I've been not with the Riders. It's usually about a 4 or 5 year cycle up, down again. Okay.
We have a 9-team league, and my team hasn't won since 1999. Well,
Yes. But I think you still beat us in totals.
Well, take it back to 1870,
That's the one thing that gets
please.
so exciting about if the Riders have a chance this year. It's the fact that, hey, it'd be the fifth time in history, so they're all that much sweeter. But I decided we've had both the MJs play this little game of ranking people lately. And I heard a comment on the weekend, so I thought I'd try you guys on this now.
All right. Well, before we get into the game, I just want to jump to something that I saw in the news, if you don't mind, old man.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot that.
Very quickly. It's, sorry, I didn't put it in the notes, but I saw a story tonight, and I'll credit 3 Down because that's where I saw it, and I didn't get all the details. I'm waiting for, most of the details are in the story, but I am waiting for an update from the podcast that I listen to about U Sports and OUA football in particular, those guys are really knowledgeable. So I'm looking for their comments as well. But the story is that next year, U Sports is changing their transfer rules for first and second year players, so that after your first year, right now, you're not allowed to transfer in most of the sports in U Sports. You're not allowed to transfer schools and remain eligible for the following year. You have to take an entire year off, and you're not allowed to be eligible until your third year of school. So as of next year, you're now going to be able to transfer after your first year and be able to play immediately in all sports across U Sports. So for football, that's really important. And it's going to be interesting because in Canada, we certainly don't see those kind of transfers that you see all the time now that they have the portal in America and have made it so easy that guys are just all over the place. Every year they're changing schools, following coaches, following so on, following whatever reason that they do decide to play or go somewhere else. I don't think it'll come to that here, but I do think it opens up opportunities for players that are sitting behind other players on depth charts and feel there might be an opportunity to move into a starting role in another program. So I think you will start to see these players move around more. Right now, it's usually 4 and 5 years at the same school for most players right now, because you're also getting your degree, but you can transfer a degree fairly easily these days as well. So I think it's going to make a difference in how U Sports responds and how they do allow it. There's already been a couple of players that have transferred in from American schools this year. Both the UBC and the Laurier quarterbacks are in fact American, both Canadian kids by birth, or I believe, but have been playing in the U.S. and now have transferred back to U Sports programs. So I think it's just something that you're going to see more of, and I think that's a pretty good deal and a pretty big thing that are going to help some of these other players get some exposure and some better coaching in their positions as they move into starting positions, and that might help us see them sooner and earlier in their career get CFL chances. So I just thought it was important enough to bring up.
No, that's like big.
Yeah,
for all
I agree with you.
sports.
It's the kind of thing that I don't know if it's going to be huge or absolutely nothing or somewhere in between. I tend to agree with you. I think you'll probably see it as mostly in something where either you're a backup on a stacked team and you, like you said, you want to get a chance to go somewhere and start, or if there's not that much difference in the levels of Canadian university ball, but there are some areas that are lower. And so the other thing that may happen is if you end up going in year 1 or 2 with one of the schools that doesn't perform so well and you really do well, you might want to try and transfer somewhere that gets you more national exposure. And I think that'll be probably the most of it.
Yeah, if you're at a place like York or U of T and all of a sudden you can transfer over to Western or Queens, you're going to take that opportunity. Or if you're the third or fourth running back at Western that they always have, and all of a sudden a program like York or even Carleton or something like that, another program loses their number one running back and doesn't have somebody to step in, you could transfer over there and all of a sudden be the number one running back. So, guys, I think that's where it's going to impact.
Yeah, you may see some more transferring in and out of the Atlantic because it's generally agreed they're sort of the lower of the 4. But any thoughts on it, MJ? Or
well, yeah. What if you could only get accepted to say, like Mount Allison or U of A or something, and then you have a chance to transfer to Western or, Great. But I mean, that applies for any sport. What if you're a swimmer and a coach shows up at U of T who you really want to work with and they want you and you're able to now transfer instead of being stuck?
Yeah.
Or you need to transfer to a program that's closer to home. Or, there's lots of scenarios where I can switch schools whenever I want. But if you're stuck in a scholarship program, so this way, it's just a little more wiggle room for people.
Yeah, and they actually mentioned swimming as well. I think one of the ones that currently is eligible for transfers. So you hit one right on. So there are several sports that you can transfer now, but going forward, it's going to be all sports. So it's going to definitely, affect the football guys.
Positive change, and I applaud U Sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything that lets the players develop more and get their full talents on display. All right. So, and thank you for saving my bacon there, GT. I didn't have that on the rundown and I forgot. I told you where we were going to put it in and then I blew right past it like I was out in my little sports car. This week, we're doing the game, and it got triggered by, they said at one point on the game that Justin Rankin was averaging 12.7 yards a carry. Now, I don't know if that's on the season or for a game or what it is, but they said, but that's only that's only the fifth highest in the CFL history. And I thought, wow, that's got to be something else. So I went looking to see who the highest yards per carry players were, and I had real trouble. I had to use AI on it, so some of this I think I've verified, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're talking running backs here, and we're talking the highest average, which amongst these five, ranked 1 to 5, number 1 being the highest average for the season, 5 being the lowest, and this is yards per carry over a season. Make sense?
Okay.
1 is the best, 5 is the least. So we'll start it out with a classic name. George Reed.
4.
Yeah, 4.
Okay. Here's one. I had to look this up. I didn't actually recognize it, but it's not that long ago. Daniel Porter. Do you need a hint of who Daniel Porter was?
Yes.
He played 2010 and 2012 with the Edmonton football team and 2011 with Hamilton. And it was in 2010 with Edmonton that this was his best year.
I'm going to put him at 3.
5.
Okay. Andrew Harris.
2.
2.
Did you say 2, MJ?
Yeah, 2.
Okay.
Oh,
so
sorry,
we'll
I missed that. I was still waiting on
sorry.
you. Fortunately,
Yeah,
I
2.
edit the pauses out, so it'll be okay. All right, so that was Harris that we had there. Okay. John Cornish.
1.
1.
Okay. And Mike Pringle.
Jeez, well, that's wrong.
Mike Pringle's the all-time rushing leader in the CFL.
Right. Yeah.
But it's yards per carry, not total.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
That's
Well,
why
I have to put him at.
I have only 5 left, and I know that's wrong, but nonetheless, I got him at 5.
Okay. So let's run through these and see. I'm trying to remember who you took, but I didn't really mark it down. So it's a bit of honesty on your part. Number 1, I think you both took John Cornish, right?
Yes.
Yes.
7.7 yards per carry in 2010 with the Stampeders. So he's right. Now, when we move to number 2, that's Daniel Porter.
Okay.
Of the Edmonton football team in 2010, 6.7 yards per carry. Number 3 is George Reed in 1965 at 6.5 yards a carry. Number 4 is Andrew Harris in 2019 at 6.1 yards a carry. And Mike Pringle, GT, you were right, is number 5 at 5.9 yards a carry in 1998.
Okay.
So you weren't that far off on most of them.
Yeah, pretty good. Not bad.
Terrible. We got John Cornish right.
You got John Cornish right. Hey, and GT got the Mike Pringle right. And I think some of the others you were close in on. I just thought, like I said, I thought that was interesting. But the biggest thing with it was this was all since basically the 90s or so. And they were listening to them. And I tried everywhere I could go to show me something else because there's got to be a lot of good stuff in the back. And even using the AI, it just came back with, there's a lot of unverifiable information, but this is what we can say is true. So those were the backs we got.
I think I'm going to pull out somebody like Jesse Lumsden or something.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it. In fact, if it had been easier to find the stuff, I was going to look for somebody that nobody had heard of that was the lowest possible yardage adage from somewhere like the 60s that you might not have heard of, and you'd be going, well, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But that didn't work.
CFL stats didn't have that. I'm surprised that you weren't able to get those.
Have you tried using that site? It's terrible.
I've tried using it. I couldn't. I don't have a lot of luck with it, and it wasn't great for giving me something where I could historically go back and I couldn't find a way to go back and just see who was the top yardage per carry leader all the way through. It may be that I'm not very good because, like I said, I tend to avoid CFL stats because it seems like I'm not bad at, I used to be not bad at research, but something on the way that page is set up, I end up banging my head into the wall after using it.
Yeah, I've never really spent a lot of time there. I've heard various, people degrade it and say it's terrible. Mm-hmm. But and then I've heard interviews with their statisticians, and they seem like they really have a handle on it themselves. So I don't, I don't know whether it's the system, whether it's still that genius sports nonsense or what it is. But that should be something you should just be able to click and get all-time rushing yards and you should be able to just click a button and get that. So if they're not able to do that, that's a fail.
You would think so. And I'm not saying you can't, but I don't know how. When I've looked on the page and tried to go very deep, they want you to understand statistics to a certain degree. And so you're putting in variables and changers and filters and that. And that's just not my jam. So anyway, move on to some other stuff like, the games this weekend. There were 4 of them. I said to the folks here before we started the show that my opinion, there was really one good game this weekend, which was the Edmonton at Toronto. It had a bit of a playoff feel. The others I felt were kind of duds, but we may as well head into them. And that started Friday night with Winnipeg going into Hamilton and Hamilton taking it 32-21. Got anything to tell us about this, MJ?
Well, I have notes. I was saying before this that the Ticats won, but I don't feel good about it. I don't think they played well. Yeah, let's get into it. Rod and Dwayne were wearing their Team Ted shirts in the booth, and that was really nice to see. And the Ticats did a really good job, and the Bombers as well. With Ted's basically memorial, they had a fighter jet, and so it was just really nice to see. And then you just gotta kind of put that aside and go play football, right? But Ted would have wanted them to.
Yeah.
So, and then Jamal Peters intercepted him on that first drive, and there it went, right? Though the Ticats,
third play of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, third play. I don't say this, but because they got caught napping on that third down gamble. They didn't even have the right personnel on. They had an offside penalty, they had a too many men penalty, and then Strebler, they just threw it out to, I think it was Wheatfall, and he was just nobody around him.
Yep.
Just out there on the side on his own, just chilling. Easy peasy. Could have flashed his Tyrell peace sign into the end zone. It was so wide open. Yeah.
That was the one where was it not, where they were going for it on 3rd and 1 and all lined up for it, and Hamilton was trying to rush in the heavy bodies and left a receiver just unaccounted for.
Yeah.
Easiest touchdown you'll ever get.
Yeah, it almost looked like he did the old lay down on the sidelines and then jump up because there was nobody around him. Nobody picked him up.
That was super embarrassing. I don't know what was going on with the turf that night, but Brady was slipping it. There were players slipping all over the place. Someone joked it's because Tim Hortons isn't the sponsor, so they can't maintain the turf anymore. And I was like, guys, come on. But you never know in Hamilton. And then the Ticats had that terrible that 30-yard punt. I was like, you might as well get Bo out there punting. But then it was intercepted, and the Ticats got it back. So it was all for nothing. So it was fine. I will say this, the Ticats, this is all game long. They were so lucky they were playing the Bombers because they had major issues driving the ball on their own down the field. And they relied on the Bombers turning it over in the red zone, and then they would just do an easy punch in. But when it actually came to them trying to drive the ball themselves, it didn't look great. Then Verisuk got injured, and that was a pretty scary situation. But he posted a video from the golf course saying he was fine. So
I didn't see the picture, but I heard that, and that is good news.
Yeah.
That's good news, yeah.
Because there have been some scary ones this year. Why are people kicking field goals under the 15-yard line? Driving me insane. It's driving me insane. Stop. Just stop doing it. It's nothing's more rage-inducing than an 11 or 13-yard field goal. And both teams did it. They both did it. Let's see. For Winnipeg, Brady, he had 15 carries for 116 yards, and he had 35 yards receiving. And he basically, this is my baseball reference. Brady right now is to the Bombers as Mike Trout is to the Angels. Mike Trout will do some ridiculous thing, and then the Angels still lose. And this is kind of what Brady looks like in the barn. He just looks mad on the sidelines. Not even mad. He just looks sad on the sidelines. And I wonder, we were having a conversation in my house about where he might sign next year because his contract's up. And he's not looking happy in Winnipeg. So we'll see.
It'll be interesting because they don't really have someone to replace him the way they had him reading in the lines when Harris went along. Yeah, and I have to agree with you. There was one point, I think about late in the first quarter, that he managed to rip off like an 8 or 9 yard run. And he got up and, it's the whole Brady head slap thing. He got up and he did that. But even that looked half-hearted to me. It looked like, I've got to pump the team up. I better do this.
Last year they had a little chicken box dance in the end zone, and he was having fun, and he does not look like he's having any fun.
No. Well, winning is more fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there's games where he's basically been their entire offense. Like he's rushing for 200 yards, and
yeah, it is true.
Like
but I mean, that was something I used to tell the teams as when I was coaching. This is junior, or not even junior. This is like minor ball, and I said, so we're here to learn football, learn the basics of it, and to have fun doing it. And every coach will say that. I do believe it, but I'll also tell you, you'll have a lot more fun if we win games. That always proves true.
But I don't know, like your attitude when you're losing. I just, And then the best part of this game was the onside kick that took almost 3 attempts, 2.5 attempts.
Yeah. Use up your whole arsenal of ways you're going to try an onside.
Yeah. And then they almost got the third one, and Scott's like, I want to decline an offside. No, let me please decline this penalty. I was like, oh, Scott, you ruined the fun. It was going to be fun. But then, I mean, I'll just trot out my rant that I say every week about why you're down 19 in 2 minutes left. Why is Strevler still out there?
Because they have no one else. Who else are you going to put out?
What's Wilson doing? What's Wilson doing?
You know that at this point they have absolutely no confidence in him, or else he would have been starting the game rather than Strevler. So, it's not. You're down 19. They're not going to. They don't. It's just not something that I don't think any team does. Is throw in the guy at that point. They just don't.
Okay, if your backup never plays, how are they ever going to get live game experience? So when something does happen to your starter, they're not like, you've never taken a single rep in 3 years you've been on our team. You're not allowed to play. Why are we doing this? Why are teams doing this? It is maddening.
Yeah,
maddening.
I don't disagree with you, but I just, again, it's almost like, as you said, it's just the way the game's played for no apparent reason other than it's the way the game's played. So yeah, you almost have to either be so far ahead that you feel like, okay, we're safe, which is very difficult, or you have to be so far behind that you literally say, we don't care anymore. We're giving the guy the third string or the second string guy the rep. And I don't think any coach wants to admit that. I don't think there's a single coach that wants to admit that, we're giving up, because that's what you're doing.
There used to be a time, though, when at halftime there'd always be a big discussion like, so-and-so's not playing very well. Is he going to start the second half? And a lot of times, no, he would not. They'd bring out the backup and he would start the second half. You're like, you're playing like garbage.
I think, again, you can do that if you have a second string guy that you have confidence in. But if you have no confidence in your second or third string guy, then you're not going to, and you're right. I remember those days too. I think Saskatchewan could do that. If Trevor was having an off day, they've got Jake Mayer there. And I think they could make that kind of decision. I think, as Edmonton did, eventually, they could have done that at some point where they went to Cody when Trey was struggling. Even in Montreal, they were set up for that kind of a situation. But when you've got a guy that you like Wilson that you have zero confidence in so far, and you've shown none of that confidence at all, then I think that's where you're not going to see that.
Oh, well, they used to do that with AC too. I remember one time his ankle was hurt and he was like hobbling in the pocket and they didn't pull him.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we'll be talking about a game later with that and see. But I agree with both of you. Like you said, GT. Yeah, there's only been twice that I remember this season quarterbacks have been pulled, and when it's the teams were down already and weren't going to come back. So that made sense. But I haven't, despite some very big leads, I haven't seen anybody sending the backup in on a victory yet. Remind me next time we get to a slow week with not a lot of news or only 3 games or something, and I'll do a little bit on an idea I have for a rule change that would help with that, and then it'll drive everybody crazy. So we'll make them wait for that. Anything else on this game?
Well, there's a couple things that I wanted to just mention. I thought it was a running back game because I did see Brady slapping his helmet 6 minutes into the game, and he had ripped off one, as you put it, and he ended up with 150 yards offense. Greg Bell had a tremendous game as well for the Ticats, and I think it really was a game dominated more by the running backs, the 2 running backs for both teams, than the 2 quarterbacks passing, because even Bo only had just over 200 yards. It was what you would call an efficient game for him, but it wasn't, an outstanding down the field, even though Lawler made a couple of nice catches. So that was interesting. It was left that. And then, there was the, Tim White drop right on cue when you needed him to make a catch. He dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he redeemed himself a couple of plays later. So that's okay. But it wasn't, it was started the weekend off with a game that just wasn't that great. And I think they kind of all followed suit for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, I felt like Hamilton kind of did the classic thing of playing down to their opposition and played just well enough to win the game, but not sparkling football. And again, I mean, it's neither here nor there, and I guess it makes no difference, but I was surprised that even, there's under a minute to go, they're up by 11 on, I think, the Winnipeg 30 or something, and instead of kicking the field goal and taking 3 more points, they just ran it once more and turned it over on downs, which, like I said, I guess it makes no difference. You're up 2 scores anyway, but it just, to me, that felt like, you don't want to be playing anymore.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll mention before we move on from the game was, considering it had been set up as a tribute to Ted already and everything else that was going on, and then the circumstances of the morning, I'm not sure if it was just television, but that stadium looked empty. I was really surprised. And they're all down in the concourse or area drinking and stuff going there. It looked like it was beyond that. I was just like, wow, it did not look like a good crowd at all in Hamilton. Then the numbers came out. I saw some on Bluesky. There's an account that posts all the attendance numbers, and it actually looked like a nice attendance number, but it sure didn't look like it from the crowd shots that I saw. A beautiful night, Friday night, they're winning, so on and so forth. I just was surprised. It didn't look like a very big crowd.
And it didn't seem to have the energy you usually get at a Hamilton game. So whether that was because of what happened with Ted, I'm not sure. It could be. But anyway, I'll take us on to the next one, and hopefully you guys can jump in a lot. I'll get us started on this since nobody's teams were in it, but I don't have a whole lot to talk about with it. Ottawa 27 at BC 38. I was saying I couldn't tell if the week before if it was the wind bothering Nathan or the Ottawa defense. Apparently it was the wind, because the Ottawa defense could not do much to stop him at all. Crum was the starter for Ottawa. Give him full credit. He kept them in there, kept trying. He certainly got a lot of heart. I said we got to get a name for us fans of him. Crumblers doesn't quite sound right, but something like that. But, it was sort of like that. And it wasn't a great game. It felt like one that BC was going to win. And that's kind of how it played out. Ottawa kept struggling to get back into it, but something would happen. Either BC would just score at will again, or at one point, there was a strip sack on him that got returned for a touchdown, and their O-line was not good at all. I thought that Boyd at left tackle was basically a turnstile in that game.
Matthew Betts had 4 sacks by himself.
He doubled his total for the year over
doubled his total,
one game. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. I basically wrote down like 4 things. Nathan's hot, is not, but pretty good. Defense, Ottawa's defense, again, cannot stop BC. The BC defense is getting to Crum with the number of sacks. And then it was a high-scoring game. Looking at the score, you think that's got to be an exciting game. But it wasn't exciting. It just didn't have any jump to it. And that's how I felt all the games were. They didn't have any jump to them. at all. So yeah, there was just a weird weekend where there was a lot of scoring going on, but somehow not a lot of excitement.
It was so weird. Like,
Yeah.
Crum was the Red Blacks' top rusher. He had 58 yards rushing.
Yeah.
And then Lewis didn't get a pass thrown to him till the third. He had one target that whole game. Pimpleton, one target the whole game. And Lewis's catch, it was for 2 yards. What's going on there? That was ridiculous. And then Lewis and Peters were fighting that whole game. Guys, the ball's not even coming to you. Just like cool your jets. You're just like so bored over there. You're so bored. You're just going to start fighting with each other. And it's just, but Addison had a good game. The Lions had no answer to Addison. Like he played well. And then I have my couple of fun points. This was the theme night for the Lions. It was campus night, and I had to look up what a frat wedding was. Like, BC, thanks a lot. I didn't want to know anything about that, but there was a frat wedding, which is just like a little joke. Haha. And then there was a Pamela Anderson lookalike contest. So that was kind of fun. And then my TSN shady moment at the end, near the end of the game, TSN panned in tight on Rick Campbell. And in the background, you could see Bob. But they were tight on Rick with Bob just in the background.
Yeah. Asking a question without asking a question. Yep.
Yeah. They were just like, just framing a shot for you. But I don't know. I was watching this game because of the podcast, and my husband's a Lions fan. And this game, you're right, it was high scoring, but I was just like, could this game please be over? How is this game not over? I am so bored and I just want to go to bed. It's on so late, and yeah.
Hey, but history was made on that game Friday night. First time I have seen yet that Dustin Crum slid after a run. There was one occasion where he didn't just run over everybody in his way. He did what a quarterback is supposed to do. It shocked the hell out of me.
I was worried he was going to get hurt this game.
Yeah, he was.
I was like, no, slide. There's no one. Well, they have Schiltz, so I don't know.
Yeah, and then Tyree Adams around there somewhere and stuff. But I did hear an interview with him, not after this game, but the one the week before, and I think it was in the TSN at the end of the game, and they were asking about the sliding, and I thought it was pretty smart on his part. He said, if I was here as starter for 18 games, I'd have to be doing that, because you can't play the way that I'm doing for 18 games and then make it through a season. But right now, I'm the backup just in here trying to win whatever I can, and that's what I'm doing.
Controversially, should he have won that starting job at a training camp?
No, absolutely not.
No?
No, absolutely not. He's not a starting quarterback. He's Chris Strevler from last year or the year before with that can throw the ball better, as he's learned, as we've seen on the other night, because he threw for over 300 yards. So he's actually a better than Chris Strevler. But he's not a starting quarterback, as proven by the record since he's been playing. He's not a starting quarterback. He's a 4-game guy and hope you win 2 of the 4. And in more than 4, you're in trouble because he can't win on a consistent basis. He just can't. And he's not helped by his defense by any means, but no quarterback in Ottawa is helped by their defense, which their back end has been horrible for years. So, and when you're paying, a guy like Drew Brown the money, especially coming out of training camp, there's no way he should have been. That's not a controversy at all in my mind. Now, Drew Brown being injured, maybe going forward, you have to think about, is Drew Brown your guy? But I don't think that elevates Dustin Crum to being your guy. Because if it's not Drew Brown, you have to look elsewhere.
I am pretty worried about Drew and these injuries, and wondering if that's going to turn into a pattern.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
Too bad.
He showed us full in practice.
Yes.
Sorry, he showed us full in practice today, but what that means, I don't know. And with Crum, like I said, I absolutely love his heart and the fact that he'll do anything that he possibly needs to or can do to win the game. I also love the fact that he does look like he's and I've said it before, no disrespect to him, but he strikes me as looking more like a lost goof out there, stumbling around, but somehow makes plays. And I would agree with you, GT, he's not a starter right now, but He's been in this league 3 years. If he improves his passing over the next year or two as much as he's done from when he first started, he could be a competent starter in the league. I don't think he's ever going to be someone who's going to be a 5,000 yard passer, but he could be a competent game manager with a team that had a good defense. Not right now, but if he keeps improving the rate he has been.
Yeah, I still think, and I've said from the get-go when we first started, even in the first year when we saw those crazy crumbacks as they're called, like his decision making just isn't there, and I don't think it's there now. And I'm worried that his decision making. I do believe he is a better passer, and he's getting to be better, but I still don't see the decisions even 3 years in, and even with the amount of starts he's had over the last 2 years, when Drew Brown's been injured.
Well, he certainly didn't have any time to make decisions on Friday.
No, he had no help, and that's another area that Ottawa spent all those draft choices on offensive line over the years, and they still have not managed to have a decent offensive line in years, no matter who they put out there.
Yeah, I think we beat this one to death. Anything more? No? Well, we don't have Calgary this week for you to take the lead on GT, but I'm guessing you were at the game in Toronto, and so we'll maybe let you take that. I'm just going to make one comment to start this off, because this occurred to me about 2/3 of the way through this. Is Cody Fajardo the CFL's version of Rudy? Rudy, you're too small, you can't do it. Rudy just keeps coming back. People keep telling him, you're not good enough, and he keeps right on. He just doesn't give up.
Well, also, okay. Well, I kind of think if Rudy was right, didn't he never play except for one down as well? So,
yeah, one down in the final game of his career, but it's got that bit of a vibe to it. You got to feel for Cody. They knock him down and they say, oh, you get us to the Western final in Saskatchewan. No, that's not good enough. You win a Grey Cup in Montreal. No, that's not good enough. So he's back in a backup in Edmonton, and all of a sudden he's the savior again.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the game, because I'll talk about Cody as well as part of that.
Okay.
Because he did next to nothing that game. So as much as, he might be the savior, the Emperor's clothes are coming off, to do another paraphrase, because he's looking pretty naked after that game, because you look at the points that they scored. What was the final score of that game?
31-30.
31-30, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at least 21 of those, if not more of those points, came off of turnovers. So that 24. They were handed 24. So drives that they sustained and drove down the field weren't happening. Toronto's defense basically ate them up for that game. And it was not. So it was Nick Arbuckle doing his best Chad Kelly impersonation and throwing into the arms of the opponent every other time that he got on the field. So that's what happened in that game. And it happened from the beginning to the end until Chad left, or until Nick left the game. Arbuckle left the game, and he shouldn't have even come back in. When we'll talk about that too. They just did everything wrong. That was the worst first half I've watched live in a football game in a long, long time by a team, by the Argos. And they did everything wrong, and yet still they were in the game. They had no right in winning that game at all. Even the guys on the Argos podcast said after the game they had no right to win that game. They had 6 turnovers. They lost. That was incredible, and they still managed to win the game. That tells you again about how Edmonton's offense was operating. When your defense is giving you 6 turnovers and you can't win, that says something as well. So anyways, by the end of the second quarter, when they finally got on those 3 points, they desperately needed those to turn the game around, and I'm glad they did. That call on the first 3rd and 1, when they went for it in the first quarter on 3rd and 1, and they went in the shotgun, it was just like, what are you guys doing? They weren't even lined up right. From up in the stands, we could see the players didn't even know what positions they were supposed to be in. They were waving the receivers into position. It was just a botched play from the beginning. And then they did the exact same play again and botched it again on a 3rd and 1. So, it was just terrible, just terrible. They were lucky to get out of that half with 3 points. And Edmonton was should have had way more points, but they couldn't generate anything because Toronto was getting to Cody on a regular basis.
If I can jump in, JT, I do agree with you there. And I think that 3 points was gifted to them because that was a rookie coaching mistake. The Elk could easily have walked out of that, run out the clock and walked out of that with a shutout in the first half. But they decide to play silly buggers and end up giving them the ball back with time for a field goal, which was the margin of victory in the end.
And they took a time count violation before that, so they ended up having to punt from their end zone instead of from the 10-yard line. So, I mean, that was, again, ridiculous on behalf of Edmonton. Jordan Williams, ex-Toronto Argonaut defensive lineman that signed with Edmonton, I just think last week, he 2 or 3 plays and was all over the Argos bench. He was just everywhere, and it was emphatic the amount of noise he was making towards the Argos bench. So it was kind of interesting to watch.
He was the pretender in the building?
He was definitely the pretender in the building. And then they came out in the second half, and again, they made some adjustments, or Dinwiddie yelled at them or whatever, but they came out and had a nice 81-yard drive to get back close. And then after that, it just kind of settled down, and it was like, again, not much going on, back and forth, close but not close, close but not close. And then that scoop and score changed everything, and the place went wild. The energy in the building when that happened was over the top. It was I will give Toronto fans credit, because when there are 15,000 people in that building, it's so loud you can't hear yourself. And if you've never been to a game at BMO, it's an experience. It really is. Their in-stadium announcements are way too loud. It's annoying and it's irritating, but the crowd itself is just terrific. Really is terrific. And they really made it difficult for Edmonton late in the game, and they really brought their defense up, and I think they did a great job. And then once they were up by that point, you couldn't hear yourself for the rest of the game. And right after that was when Arbuckle went into the tent, and we were watching it, and I said, "Oh, the tent's up. Who's in the tent?" So myself and my brother-in-law, who I go with, we were scanning and we're looking along the bench, and we're like, "Oh, we don't see Arbuckle. I bet you that's him in the tent." Then they brought him out of the tent, and he could barely walk. So then they put him back in the game, and he immediately threw an interception because he couldn't stand and he couldn't plant. So that ball was a duck going up, and they shouldn't have put it in, shouldn't have put him back in. That did him no disservice at all. And then finally, when Deggy went in there, he threw 2 beauties. Those were perfect passes. So talk about quarterbacks going in at the last minute without a lot of prep. He went in and he did his job and got them down there, and then they kicked that field goal to win it. And then brouhaha ensued, and we're all like, what's going on? Wow, that's getting testy down there. And then we all read about it and saw it all after the game. But because we didn't see it live, it was just a massive crowd noise. That's how it ended. It was all fun. And as I say, it was good for me. So.
Yeah, there you go. It's all about you. We didn't do a segment for it. We should have. I'll say on TV that stuff with Arbuckle was fairly obvious. But after the interception, he threw a touchdown on that bat on one leg, did he not? I think he played one more series and threw a touchdown for it. I could be wrong. But I was sitting there thinking...
I thought he was injured, but it didn't show up as much. Then he threw the touchdown. Then he went into the tent. Then he threw the interception. Then they pulled him. That's how I remember.
It could be that one, but I was saying to myself, shades of Byron Lethowich. Are we going to have the lineman carrying him down the field to make the next play?
Yeah.
It was fun. What you got, MJ?
Well, poor Nick. I felt so bad for him. Like, nothing worse than watching a quarterback like hobbling around.
No.
It's just tough. That nonsense after the end of the game. So many people are like, this is because the benches are on the same side. And I'm like, no, that's not the issue. That's not the issue, because other major sports have benches and all their stuff on the same side of the field. And it's not because of that. And I thought what Ryan Dinwiddie did was extremely embarrassing. I don't mind the Deggy stuff and the Deggy thing where he's like, the cut it out, they cut me. I thought that was kind of funny, but it was completely overshadowed by Ryan Dinwiddie completely losing it. And then I got accused this week of being the no fun police. And I was like, I am all about the fun. I love, if you want to point and say ice in the veins, fantastic. You want to make a big, like, first down sign and, like, lord it over everyone, be my guest. You want to make a bobsled touchdown celebration or a bowling one? Fantastic. You want to jump into Pilsner country and drink a beer? Great. Hilarious. My all-time favorite is when all the Ticats jumped into the boat at the Bombers game. Hilarious. Great. Do it.
And got fined.
We all have a great time. So much fun. So much fun. It's what Ryan did is not funny. And it's not fun. You know what? Honestly, also, I was thinking about today, and if it is true that some of the Elks coaches were also beaking off and being ridiculous, then Mark Killam needs to figure that out, because that's also not okay. Coaches having meltdowns at each other on the sidelines is not okay. I expect that from some players, but I expect it on the field. And then, Dave Alexander chirping to Lawler a bit hilarious. Like, we all have a little bit of fun and it's whatever, but that there's a line to be crossed. And again, Ryan and co have crossed the line again. So clean it up, boys. I hope they all get fined.
Oh, I suspect they all will get fined.
Like, find them all. It's embarrassing. Well,
Another
it's
place
embarrassing.
that's not really Happyville in the CFL right now.
No, and it's embarrassing because the Argos have so much, like, media on them because of this Bills MLS thing, and then that's the stuff you pull at the game right after. And it's a John Candy night. And so there's lots of media, and this is what you pull. Like, I don't know who you I don't know who you think you are. But anyway, neither team were played great. So you didn't even have, like, what are you even trying to say? You didn't even play well. And now your star quarterback's hurt.
And don't forget, we're not exactly talking about an organization that has irradiated class with their decisions lately. So, oh well. The one thing that I did enjoy, well, actually, like I said, to me, this was the best game of the weekend, and it wasn't a great game, so that tells you sort of where it went. But I think probably the point of the game that I enjoyed the most was where Jumpin' Jake Herslow decided to do one of his hurdles, and the Edmonton DB took him on face up and smacked him right in the head with it. Took a penalty for it, which is unfortunate, but I think it'll slow down the hurdling from here on, because that was
Do you think
that was a hell of a hit.
Do you think they have, like, a group chat and they're like, this guy's going down? Like, we've all had enough.
It could be. I don't know. But yeah, those are the thing about the hurdles. If it looks, when you do it right, it can look great, but when it doesn't work, it can be painful.
Yeah, that was an immediate penalty, and it should have been, because it was helmet to helmet, and it was crown to crown as well. So I don't know why why the DB was so upset afterwards about getting a penalty for it. Sometimes that's what I just go, guys, shake your head. You got to know that you hit him with your helmet. Come on, that's a penalty. There was so much though. I mean, the Dinwiddie stuff at the end was over the top, and I think it was uncalled for, but there was a lot going on in that game between, as I say, by players, and if the coaches, as you said, MJ, from what we heard as well, there was Edmonton coaches chirping as well. Then that should have been stopped at some point. Killam should have got all of those guys together and said, okay, enough. Because that can come back to hurt you. You can't put it all on Dinwiddie, but Dinwiddie certainly exasperated the situation. So,
you spend so much time chirping, and you should have been like strategizing. You could have won a game, but you were too busy beaking off. Like, exhausting.
Well, I think that couple of things happened in this game, that it was the coaching that lost it for the Elk, including that, what I talked about earlier, that end of the half play where they gave up the field goal. But just, it did not seem like it was a coherent, well-coached game on their part. And another walk-off field goal to win it for Hiralahu. So, I think that's the second of his this season for him. I notice even just like the games this weekend, we're kind of low energy. When you start talking about some of these things, it's hard to keep up with it. But anything else there, or do we go on to the, well, I guess that was the last game of the weekend, wasn't it? So we can move on to the, no, it was the last real game of the weekend. Montreal 48 at Saskatchewan 31. And I got to say, the TSN used to do the TSN turning point of the game. And if they still did it, the turning point of the game in this one was the pregame when they announced that both their safeties, who were game time decisions, the decision was bad. They weren't in. So they were playing back there. Saskatchewan had basically the scout team. In fact, I said afterwards, it's really kind of insulting to Montreal to suggest they could lose this one because they were basically playing the scout secondary. 2 first-time starters at corner. They've both been in, well, one's been in the league longer, but strictly as XMA as special teams and that. So him starting first time, and the same thing over on the other side. You've already got your third-string safety in there. And then partway through the game, you lose your Sam linebacker, which is really the 6th part of the secondaries. I was told early in my coaching career, there's some games that no matter what you do, you're going to win them. And there's some games, probably, there's one or two games a year, no matter what you do, you're going to win them. 1 or 2 games a year, no matter what you do, you're going to lose them. This was the one for the Riders. The football gods turned on them. And, it was sloppy. It had no, well, the Owls had every right to the points they got because they were taking full advantage of the inexperienced players in there. But the Riders should not have had the Riders played not bad offensively, but they shouldn't have had the points they had. Once Montreal got the lead, they didn't go into a full prevent, but they backed off quite a bit and gave up probably at least the last touchdown Harris threw. Sure. And then when they pulled Harris with about 3 minutes left and put Mayer in, he got a touchdown. And neither one of those would have been touchdowns if Montreal was playing any sort of an aggressive defense. To me, the only other credit was at the end of the game, whether it was the backups that were in there or the ones they put in that, they were still playing hard right till the last whistle. So I take something from that. But otherwise, not a lot. I would think not a lot of you could expect different. And I don't know how much there is to talk about. There were some very good individual plays in the game, but that's sort of my take on it. How do you guys think of it? What did you see in here?
Well, I saw, my notes that basically MBT's on fire for first time in the year. Philpott's on fire. He looks like the guy that's back. That was the, Canadian Player of the Year a couple of years ago. And the Riders were in buy mode. They were just like, they were going into the buy, and it looked like it. They just looked like they had nothing going on, and they looked like Calgary the week before against Edmonton, where they were just like, yeah, we got a couple of injuries. We're just going to try to get out of this game and go home and chill for a week. Sure, we're going to play, but we're not going to play. Now, that's how it looked. And then it's just a burn the tape game. And, what did I say last week? The Riders were primed to lose the game that they lose once every year at home against a quarterback that they don't deserve to lose to. And that's what they did. So I think I went
GT jinxed them.
Yeah, no, I went 4-0 if I remember correctly because of that. And the only other note is Montreal may have found a running back in Stevie Scott. I mean, he looked tremendous. But again, was that the they don't have any tape on him, so they don't know how he moves and where he moves and what he likes to do, or whether is that a one game thing or not. But yeah, Montreal looked real good again. And if they get decent quarterbacking and and Mustafa Johnson had a great game on the defensive line, and he's a big piece that they just got back. So Montreal may be rounding back into form, and they may yet make us all right when we pick them to win the East. They may yet win the East.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is entirely possible with it. I mean, frankly, it was, again, I thought it was very easy for MBT to look good because the pre-read was I'm throwing it over to the right, but full credit to them for that. And frankly, even if the Riders had their full defense in there and whatnot, they made 2 or 3 mistakes early in the game, interceptions, fumbles, stuff like that. So there is something to what you said there too, GT, that their heads just didn't seem to be in it. And I thought that they should have been capable of much better than that. Well, no, maybe that's not even true because Montreal has a very good defense. In fact, I thought that was kind of the irony of this game is that you've got the 2 of the 3 better defenses in the league there, and you put up 81 points. But really, it was just the way that it turned out. One defense wounded and the other one saying, well, you know, we can give up some ground and some points because we've got an 18-point lead, and we'll just, anytime they score, we'll march it down and refresh it, and we'll be back to 18 points.
Yeah, what do I have? A few things. Maltos missed 2 field goals. One was so far off. But it must have been a bad hold. I'll give it and say it was a bad hold, but he did not flex that whole game after that. Every time after any field goal, there was no flexing. I think he was pretty upset with himself. Yeah. Their punter punted. I felt bad for Exume. Honestly, people just ripped him to shreds, and I was like, man, he doesn't even play that position. And I don't know, are they not allowed, like, surely maybe they should have switched some DBs around in the middle of that game or something to just give him a break. Have any more.
Yeah.
Well, no, but who was covering Mac? There was other receivers on the field who had a DB. Like, they could have carouseled them around a bit, I think, just to give him a break.
Well, yeah, the one thing that you could have done is swap the corners and put Sapp over there. But would he, you know, as a first gamer, would he have been any better? And the thing is, that was also, if you looked again, no all 24. I'm not going to whine about it, but I'm seeing what I can see just on the TV. But that was part of what where Scott took off with his running yards too, because they'd gone into defensive concepts that were trying to do everything they could to help the people on the back end. They were running basically 6 men in the box for a large part of that game. And that's going to get you run on. But they were saying at least, okay, if he runs for 8-10 yards at a time, we're not giving up a 45-yarder down the sideline again with it. So the passing game did impact the running game on there. Also, I think they said Scott himself on the sidelines at one point when somebody was congratulating him, just said, hey, fresh legs. And there's something to that. When everybody else has played 15 games and you're on your first one, you got a little more bounce in your step.
Unlike TSN, who every time Scott had a big run, panned in tight on Thies in his street clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shady. I loved it.
They did that to Sean Thomas Irvington the week before, too. So
Yeah. And then the other thing is, like, MBT, for as good as the game he had, he cannot help himself. He was calling out receivers on the field over a missed pass, and I was like, oh, there's MBT. Just cannot keep it. He's got a temper. He cannot keep it under control. And then, speaking of temper, there was 2 horse collar tackles, and this is where that rule changes here. There was 2 horse collar tackers, 15 yards. Each of them put the other team on the 1-yard line for a touchdown. And then there was a big man tutty. I love a big man. That was so happy for him. Yeah.
And on the horse collars, especially the one from Montreal, I did not understand that one at all, because he horse collared him as the rider player was running out of bounds. He grabbed him and basically yanked him back onto the field with the horse collar. So I don't know what, obviously a mental error on the defense there, but yeah. No,
but yeah, it was a kind of a silly game. They made Montreal look good. My kid was extremely thrilled. We'll see how they do next week.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, no taking away from Montreal, full credit. They had to go out and play what they did there with it. And it is a injured rider team. And then another thing which seems to be becoming a trend this season, and I haven't seen it before this bad, is the number of teams that are going into bye weeks and are just basically almost not showing up the last week before the bye. It's a weird year for that.
Well, I think it didn't help that they were also coming off of 2 big Bomber victories, where they come off of both the Banjo Bowl and Labor Day, and those were their 2 games. So this was almost, and then they had this one. This was the classic trap game. Even though Montreal, you don't consider them an opponent for a trap game. I think this really was going with that bye coming up. It became a trap game for Saskatchewan. So I really do think, as you said, their heads just weren't in it, and it looked like it from the get-go. And then they were just, they just checked out. And they played, but they, as I say, I don't think they played with the mindset that they need to win a game. That would have been important. If it had been a very important game, if they weren't up, if they weren't already 10-2, if they weren't up by two games on the Stampeders, if they weren't going into a bye, so on and so forth. If they needed to make a statement, they would have probably approached it differently, and I think you would have seen a different game. So it's not like I'm worried about I don't think anybody should be, jumping off of bridges if there are any in Regina, because of that game by any means.
Yeah,
all this did was put some wind in the Alouettes' sails.
We had a couple of bridges in Regina, but it's about a 3-foot drop to the water, so you're not gonna.
Yeah, I'm just worried because this game.
Saying something.
No, this game worries me because it put a little wind in the Alouettes' sails. This is a good confidence boost for them.
Absolutely.
And it makes the race in the West more interesting again.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Lightens it up. Sure. This week will be.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who gets first place and who gets third place, because they're both those things are possibly up for grabs there for stuff. I mean, Edmonton, on TV they didn't look as bad as what you said. It made it sound live. It kind of felt like a playoff game to me, and I thought it looked like they were doing better than obviously they were there. But they're what, 4 out of their last 6 now. They are coming along, and BC, I'm sorry, as good as Nathan can be at times, I just cannot see BC winning a whole bunch of games unless something changes on that defense. So it could be any one of the Edmonton, BC, or Winnipeg taking third by the time the season's over.
Yeah, I don't know what their schedules are like. I know Edmonton. I'm not sure how that's going to be interesting. I'd have to look at their schedules to see where they stack up against each other, particularly at this time of year. So I'm not sold on that. I'm still not sold on Edmonton. So.
Ryan told us that the Elks are just going to enjoy the off season. So I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah, that could be. No, yeah, I don't know that I would pick them as my first choice to get into third, but I wouldn't put it outside of them because so much will depend on what's happening as well with Winnipeg and their quarterback situation.
Oh, I've written Winnipeg off.
They're refusing to rule Zach out for the game this week. They're saying he may play.
I do not like this. It's such a... They should listen to Milt a little bit more, maybe.
Oh, well. We're losing... I feel like we're all losing energy. We're getting towards the end of this here. We'll be under an hour and a half, maybe, depending how quickly we make our picks. That'd be weird. So let's just jump into it for next week. And I think I've even got the right teams up here. It could be some interesting ones. Game 1 Friday, the early game on Friday, Montreal at Toronto.
Oh,
at
Montreal.
This point, we're hearing Jared Dagey, and I'm thinking MBT probably.
Yeah. Montreal. I think I got to go with you too there. Yeah, coming off of that win, coming off of, their MBT, you got to think he's going to have a better performance than Jared Dagey. So, I got to go Montreal.
Yeah.
So I think we're all going Montreal. Did I hear you the same, MJ?
Yeah, well, and no, it's like as much as Dagey would like us to believe that his 6 passes, is a whole game, it's not. And I think that the Montreal defense is going to give the Argos all they can handle. Yep. So Montreal.
Dinwiddie does some amazing things with quarterbacks. I'll say that. And the only thing we really got to see on Dagey was what he played in Edmonton, which was not good.
He didn't even have preseason training camp with them. He's had no practice reps, they said. So,
given all that, I think if Arbuckle was in, I'd be going Toronto. But since he's not, I'll go with you on Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. BC at Calgary. I'll go first on this one and say I think that it's going to be probably about 32-21, and it'll be Calgary winning it.
Go ahead, MJ.
This stresses me. VA stressing me out because he looked so bad last game. But maybe that's just our little go into the bye curse. I think he's had some time to stew about it. So I'm going to say Calgary.
All right. Well,
do I even have to ask you, GT?
Oh, yeah. The first interview I saw with VA, he looked uncomfortable. The first interview I saw this week after yesterday's practice, he didn't look comfortable in the interview. He kept saying, "I have to win this game. I have to be better. It comes down to me." And I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a guy who's taken a lot of pressure on himself. And when when he takes pressure on himself, he tends to not have great games. So I'm still not convinced he's out of the funk. I know they're getting a bunch of guys back this week, which is good news. I looked at their injury report today, and I thought, there's a bunch of good news there. But I'm still not convinced that they have. I'm going to pick BC in the upset. I'm picking BC in the upset.
That's fair.
The reason that I'm figuring BC doesn't have a chance is that Calgary defense is just as good as it is. And I don't think that I think Nathan will look more like 2 weeks ago Nathan than this weekend, where he had the trouble with the wind of that. But anyway, so hey, at least there's a chance here now. Unfortunately, you gained a game on me last week, so I'm falling further behind. So we'll see how what this one does.
Yeah.
Then we go to the Saturday, the afternoon game, Winnipeg at Ottawa. At this point, Drew Brown was showing full in practice, but no word on who's starting. And Zach was practicing, but limited. And the last that I heard, the Bombers were still saying they hope to get him in and play the weekend.
Yeah, can I defer?
You can go last, but you can't defer.
Because there's just not enough information to pick this game at this point. But if it's Drew Brown versus Chris Streveler, I'll take Drew Brown. So I'm going to go Ottawa.
I have a note saying, like, what is there, like, the Crum Drew versus Streveler Zach? Question mark? Who's starting? Who's dressed but not playing? Who's dressed but starting, listed as third? Oh, both these teams played so bad. You know what? Maybe Bob Dice's dog will be on the field again before the game because they're playing in Ottawa. So I'll take the dog on the field vibes and pick Ottawa.
Okay, well, surprisingly enough, it appears like we're going to be all simpatico on this one too, because frankly, at this point, with what I've seen from them, I don't care which quarterback is in for either team. I'm taking Ottawa. I think if it's Crum, he beats Streveler and he beats Zach, I believe. Because Zach has not looked... Zach's had a couple of games that he looked okay, but he's not looked great. So that's that one. Okay, and then the Edmonton and Hamilton to end up the week.
Very important. Castantonis is injured.
Yes, saw that.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Is his ankle. And if he is not playing, that defense is garbage, and I'm going to pick the Elks.
Okay, well, I think Edmonton, I'm not sure if they stayed here, but because they were in Toronto on a Saturday and now they're in Hamilton on Saturday. So if they flew from Toronto back to Edmonton and then have to fly back to Hamilton, that's a factor. I think their offensive line is showing its warts again. I think that's a factor. And I think, that Hamilton has played very well. Castantonis is a big part of that defense. I agree there, but I think both Amos and Peters had interceptions last week, and I think their defense is getting after the quarterback now. I think Bo can outgun Cody if that's also if it comes down to that. So I'm going Hamilton.
And myself, I tend to believe what you were saying, GT, that I could be wrong. I don't think the Edmonton defense has progressed enough to take out what Hamilton can do. I mean, frankly, if they get a lead, they've showed now that they can run with Bell and hold on to the lead. And if they get pushed,
injured.
If Edmonton does push them, they have the ability to win a shootout. So,
yeah, and Nick Anderson's injured again for Edmonton as well. That hurts them in their linebacking core a lot. So, again, I'd be surprised. I've been surprised, but I'm fairly confident in my Hamilton.
I don't know. That defense, if Castantonis doesn't play, they just cannot. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah. Well, he is definitely the glue that holds it together back there.
And you know what? They play down. They play down to teams. I don't know.
And then the other thing is, like you said, we heard that Verisek is back in or was maybe not back in, but wasn't hurt bad. Was saying that there was not a whole lot to the injury that happened with him, but he was taken off on a stretcher. So will he be ready to go this week, or will he be out too? Because that could be another big hole in that defense.
Yeah, I can't remember when I looked at the report what he was listed as today.
I think he practiced. I don't think he's on. Like the quad was injured, came back, and he looked like garbage for a few games, and then finally this last game he started looking like he used to look.
My Verisak isn't even on the injured list.
No, he's fine.
So either it was absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So it sounds like like that's not a big issue, and so I think they'll be.
Yeah, I'm just quickly pulling up the 6-game injured list just to make sure that he doesn't show up on here somewhere.
Oh no, I'm thinking they showed him like.
Yeah, no, we would have heard if he was added to the 6th game. Somewhere that would have been.
Yeah, I would think so too. No, so he must be okay.
Yeah, he was golfing. He's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, of course he is. Slightly less contact in golfing, but he'll be good. Okay, anyway, that's enough of that.
You've obviously never seen me golf. It's a full contact sport.
Could be.
Usually with my palm and my forehead. Again.
Yes. I don't know about the two of you. I'm struggling here, so I think it's time to wrap it up. Closing thoughts. Where can people find you? Those sorts of stuff.
Well, apparently I'm on Instagram. So you can find me there, I guess.
And you're looking for followers who you know.
And other than that, you can find me on Bluesky at GT Barnum.
Sounds good. MJ?
I'm running the Instagram account poorly, but it's happening. And I'm also on Bluesky at Sports and Plants.
Good stuff. And I'm, as always, Oldman-SAC at Bluesky, or at Oldman, whatever. We are at the CFL Outsiders on Bluesky and on X. You can get me on CFL subreddit r/CFL as u/Oldman. Shouting Cloud. We now, as MJ said, have the Instagram. Look at us. We are taking over the CFL. So hopefully you're enjoying this. Hopefully it's we've given you some this week. It's like I said, might be a little bit lower energy, but it just feels like we're in that lull, and that tells me that this week is going to be fantastic. Can't wait to see the games. And other than that, please drop a like, whether you're on podcast or YouTube. Hit the like button for us. That certainly helps. Of course, we want you to subscribe, both places if you can. Comments, all that stuff to help us. We're enjoying this, but we're finding as well that people are coming along and going, hey, this is great. How come I didn't know about it? So help us let more people know about it. See if they can, how much we can't grow this thing this year yet. Thank you for everything. Wishing you a great weekend of football. For GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying until next week, get the hell off my lawn.